Here we go. Welcome everyone to today's roundtable from IREB Quality Requirements Unveiled. This is our first roundtable we do with our new CDE, new CI. I hope you like it. I wonder how it will look on the recording. So as you know now, the session will be recorded. We will put it on YouTube and inform on social media about it. And I'm very pleased to have three really great panelists today with me in order to explore the topic. Let me start introducing Karolina Zmitrowicz from Poland. Karolina is an independent IT consultant, and Karolina, when I get the CV, I can tell you in detail what she's doing there. She works with companies in business analysis, requirements engineering, and quality management, and she helps their customers to improve their operations and development processes. She's a very experienced requirements engineer and quality manager, and she is member of the IREB board of directors. She's taking care of all the financial aspects there, and of course, subject matter topics, requirements engineering. Thanks for being with us,
Thank
Karolina.
You, Stefan.
Then we have Tom Gilb. I don't know whether I need to introduce Tom. Everybody might know him. He's one of the forefathers of software quality. Tom is author of more than 10 paper books and more than 25 digital books and hundreds of papers on requirements, design, project management, and related subjects. And as far as he told us today, he has got plenty of time to answer questions because he's just on retirement now and doing more books and more talks and papers on the topic. Tom, welcome to this talk today. And last but not least, we have Rainer Grau. Rainer is as well an IT consultant, or let's say management consultant. He acts in companies where he helps them to, as well, I need to get the text here, helps them to build customer-oriented products and services in a very complex and fast-moving world. And as well, Rainer is member of the IREB board of directors. Rainer is the second chair. He's from Switzerland. Karolina is from Poland. And Tom, you are living in Sweden, in Norway. Norway, right?
Norway, yeah.
Norway. Okay, so welcome everyone. And now let's dive directly into the topic, quality requirements. Why are they that important? And why is it so hard to get awareness for quality requirements in organizations? Because due to their importance, every organization should work on quality requirements and take care for quality requirements. So why is it, on one hand, then important, and why is it so difficult to get the awareness? Who wants to start?
Tom, please start.
Okay. It is important because of two things. The quality levels, let me name some qualities to make it more concrete. Usability, security, transparency. The two things, if the quality levels are too low, the product or service will not sell. Okay, it will be a failure. That's the number one reason. The number two reason is that high quality levels cost significantly and surprisingly more. Sometimes a very small improvement from, say, 99.0 to 99.5% availability in one real case cost over 3,000 man-years of effort at AT&T. Okay, so very small increments at the competitive high level can have tremendous cost implications. That's okay. Now, second question, why are people not aware of this and why doesn't management do more about it? Number one, they are not trained at business school. If you take a look at examples of what they do learn, like balanced scorecard, you find that their non-financial ideas are just buzzwords, like higher security, but they are not quantifying and clarifying exactly how much security. So long story short, business management schools do not train managers to quantify qualities and clarify them as well as they teach these same managers to quantify money and profit and growth and things like that. So there is no culture, okay? They are not aware that they should be managing this. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I would like to add that it's important because you distinct yourself from the competition, and it's hard to measure them, and many companies don't measure them. And because of this, they oversee that they are important. They can easily measure the quantity of features within the product, but the quality of the features are mostly unknown because they don't measure the quality. You can identify the quality only if you measure the quality, and you have to define what is the level of quality you would like to. And the quality is a set of characteristics, and you have to measure these characteristics. And typically, companies, as far as from my observation, are going for features. Give me more features. And when they deploy a feature and put it into production, then they think about, well, let's pimp up the GUI a little bit. Let's pimp up the performance a little bit. And then they are in troubles because they never thought before, because they're going only for features. And this is the reason why the awareness in many organizations is failing. So they don't measure quality and they go for features. If I would give some recommendations for companies, they should measure quality. So define the characteristics that are important and measure them by any systems and get data about it. And to have a nice balance between quality and features.
Okay.
Carolina, what's your opinion?
What I could add to absolutely agree with all of you, with both of you. My experience is that, okay, why are those characteristics important? Let me give you just one example. Tom, you mentioned it, usability and this kind of stuff. They basically create the user experience. Without a good user experience, you can have a working product with all the fancy functionalities, and users will just reject the product. Yeah, so it's not about, well, implementing attributes, implementing another type of requirements. It's about building value, yeah, business value. So this is just one reason why they are important. And why they are not really considered in organizations. My personal feeling is that, well, the awareness is growing. Yeah, at least my customers, they know that something like that exists. Yeah, that we have usability, we have security, and so on. The problem is that, exactly as Tom said, probably they are not trained properly. And they are not trained in requirements engineering. I can accept that. But they are also, what is strange, they are not trained in business thinking. Like, imagine a manager who is defining a goal like, my goal is I want to increase process efficiency. What? Where is the measure, yeah, the metric? And this is the problem that this is my experience, they are dealing with. They more or less they know what they want, they cannot express.
Okay, I already got some ideas on how to proceed. I just want to give another information to the attendees. If you have any questions or comments, please put them into the chat. We can at the end have a Q&A session where we can pick up from these questions and comments. So if you have anything you want to contribute, put it to the chat, please. So what I already heard is that we need to measure them. We need to quantify them, and perhaps we can discuss a bit about how do you document such a quality requirement. Perhaps you can just take one example, or each of you could take an example as you like, and then have an idea what could be a quantifiable attribute where we say, okay, this is something you can measure, this is something you can compare, this is something where you can define a level which you need to reach. Is there an example you could give?
Well,
if
yes,
I could ask, Rainer, before we start, because I think the specification, well, you are the experts, you and Tom, But before specifying anything, you need to have information, yeah? So you need to elicit the information, and that would be first step for me.
Okay.
You need to talk with stakeholders.
We could as well start at that end if you want. How do you elicit it? And then how do you document it?
Well, I actually have a nice example. I was working for over a year with the security office of a company. Because of all these security issues now, cybercriminality, GDPR, and all that stuff. And first, they inform themselves what are the sources that are really relevant for the company. So norms, ISO norms, whatever, GDPR regulations, and so on. And the first step was to analyze and elicitate what is the set of requirements or constraints that are written in these books that are really relevant for the business they have. So they extracted a set of high-level requirements, you could say, or constraints that are relevant for the company out of these regulations and norms. So they have their own security and compliance book. And this is the source and the beginning of everything. And as you could imagine, if I want to implement GDPR correctly in all the systems that are in a larger organizations, then it's on organizational level, it's on architectural level, it's on the implementation level, it's on all levels in the company. And this is pretty hard to break down. So if you have a high-level requirement, a high-level quality requirement, this one requirement, then it's breaking down in a lot of different detailed requirements that has to be covered by different parts of the organization. And this is hard work to get this all together to a aligned set, because then you have to work with the organization, you have to work with the IT architecture to find out how this is implemented there, because IT architecture is giving you an implementation stack on which you will be implementing. And you have to find out what has to be done in teams that are really implementing software. And what we did there is that we really broke down these requirements. For example, if you're using a Java stack, we broke down what does a Java stack needs to supply and services that these GDPR requirements are met. And then you have acceptance criteria that you could test against. And then you have to create automatic tests to test against. And that could be done then if you have a new version of your architectural stack and so on. But as well, you have acceptance criteria for your organizational requirements that are breakdown. So I have a whole set of broken down requirements with acceptance criteria that are going to different areas of the organization. So it will be fit together as a whole to fit to this one requirement that's coming out from GDPR. And I think this is a way to go. And there you see that you have the broken down requirements. These are documented, and the acceptance criteria where you have to test against. And this is actually the documentation that you have. Actually, I've done this for the company for different technology stacks and different environments and organizational parts. And this is very small changing, because GDPR is not changing anymore, and the norms are not changing, and the relevant stacks are changing very slow, so it's affordable. But then you have a reliable stack, a reliable definition what these quality requirements are used for. That could be an approach that worked pretty fine in this example. And the actual load for a team is very, very, very thin. So they're not pushed yet. Now, in the end of the implementation, you have to test against all the requirements that are here. But the work that has to be done by a team is pretty small to fulfill the overall
just to check against those requirements and acceptance criteria which have been defined for their dedicated area.
And that's typically a small subset.
Okay. Right. So if I summarize, you have let's say a quite high level requirement mentioned by GDPR: protect personal data, and you for your company, you need to specify concrete requirements, means how to store and encrypt whatever, a first name, a last name, an address, and whatever. So you transfer this let's say high level requirement to a concrete requirement, and then you need to figure out which implementation areas where do you need to address this specific requirement and see whether this is fulfilled or not.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Tom, Carolina. New
Maybe I
slide.
will start before Tom because I will refer to Tom during my, let's say, talk. I think I'm using similar approach to you, Rainer. Typically, we're starting from something. I will not call this requirement. We are starting from something like the system should be usable, user-friendly or sexy or whatever, yeah. And we need to try to understand what the customer has in mind, which means we need to kind of decompose this requirement into something specific, like, well, you are able to measure it, right? You are able to measure if something is intuitive or not. Like, for example, how much time do you need to get to a function or whatever, yeah? But it's not enough. Yeah, and then I'm stealing Tom concept. I'm stealing your language tags, Tom, because you have something that I really like. You have these measures, like for example the tags. Yeah, for a user that is, well, a junior user or senior user, we are expecting this kind of measures. Yeah, so whenever possible, I'm trying to mix some concepts like the decomposition, the normal decomposition, using personas if this is important, and using something that is measurable, keeping into mind, well, taking into consideration then when, especially if we are talking about this kind of requirements, at least this is my experience, not always they are, how to say it, one-dimensional. Like, for example, we have the same level of expectations regarding usability because it really depends on the type of the user. Yeah. So that is an example of how I am dealing with requirements. And now I think I will pass to Tom.
Okay, agreed, both of you. I'm going to focus on just one simple idea. And that's the idea that in my planning language, I call scale of measure. Now, it's as simple as bits per second or miles per hour or something like that, right? But I believe, and I believe I can prove, and nobody has tried to prove me wrong, all qualities can be defined by a scale of measure, no exceptions. Now, sometimes we have to do what Rainer is talking about, decompose a larger idea into its constituent parts. Usability typically is about 10 different parts in, for example, my books, for example. But the idea is that absolutely all qualities can be defined by a scale of measure. Now, the scale of measure doesn't tell you how much we need, the requirement, but it does give us a language which is clear, unambiguous, and potentially measurable or testable. Okay. Now, it turns out in the old days, I would say, oh, well, you have to read my books and learn how to define a scale of measure. Now, I've got something better for everybody. Guess what? Artificial intelligence. You ask your favorite chat GPT, please define as a scale of measure security. Please define as a scale of measure usability. Anything you think you would like to quantify, but people usually are saying it can't be done, it's soft, nobody knows how, it's difficult. They have 100 excuses. But if you ask ChatGPT to do it, it will do it better than most human beings I have trained. I've been doing some experiments recently on this, okay? So I guarantee you ChatGPT will tell you some good examples of measuring scales for any quality you can name. Try it out while we're talking here, for example.
That's a nice idea. I like it, yeah. I have another example from an online store where, as you said, absolutely agree, metrics are the way to go, a scale. Yeah. So, for example, we followed each spur through the online shop of every customer. So from each step to each step, from the first view he had on a product page to the checkout to the payment, we had every line of interaction from every customer. And there we had a metrics, how high was the conversion for every single step. So we had a metrics for every single step, and we have seen where's the conversion low from step to step. And then we have the measure where we have to improve. And then you don't know what the, and that's I think is an interesting point. Many companies believe they know what the customer need, and I'm pretty sure that nobody in a company knows really what a customer needs. And this is the way where you have to go for A and B testing. That you say I have two options. I am offering two options for my customer, but then the metric is relevant, because only with the metric I see with option works better for the customer. And if I do this in an agile way, testing very often with different options, then I get a better feeling for quality, what the customer really likes. So if you combine these techniques, then you could cope with quality requirements that are, let's say, more uneasy than security and compliance.
Okay.
What you just mentioned, Rainer, I just kicked in my mind, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of these qualities, the scale, the measure can change over time. Like, for example, today we have this level of expectation, but it may change. For some reasons, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a similar thing like with, for example, business goals or any kind of strategies. It is not something that is fixed and stable. And that could be challenging in managing this kind of qualities.
Yeah. For example, if you're thinking about user interfaces, if you go 10 years ago, these menu were popular with a lot of sub-pages. Now you have single-page applications. And just because the flavor for the style of an interface is changing, your quality is changing, or at least the measures that you have to take to reach the same quality received by the customer is different. Then you have to change. Well, and if you have these metrics and they are running, then you see when your metrics go out of this area where you would like to have it. And then you know you have to take some action.
I'd like to introduce another related idea.
Yeah.
On the scale of measure, we tend to think there is a number like the goal. Okay. Now, I'd like to introduce the idea that there are many such levels, not just as things change, as you've been talking about, but simultaneously, immediately. Okay. Now, let me give two levels. One level I call the goal. That is the level that we would be very happy with. We don't need any more. It would not pay off with any more. There's something called too much quality at too great an expense. Okay, that's the goal level. Okay, now there's something below that that people don't bring into their thinking, but I think it's valuable to do it. We call it a scalar constraint, technical term. But we have one we use all the time called the tolerable level. Okay? So tolerable level means below this, it's intolerable. We have a problem. At this level or above, we can live with it. We can work our way towards the goal. Okay? So the idea is on this, the simple idea is on the scale, there are two major points. The goal level, which is enough and satisfactory, and balanced with all the other qualities and costs, and the tolerable level, which enables you, I call it survival. You know, we can live with it. And
so
below
this
that,
is the bandwidth that's defined for a characteristic.
Yeah. But the idea that there are these two levels, the border between below tolerable is intolerable or failure, and above goal is unnecessary quality levels at unnecessary costs. Okay? And that's a very useful idea to have these 2 points on the scale of any requirement.
Wouldn't it be interesting as well
However,
to
that
have
could be challenging.
the level of the
Sorry.
competition as
Just-
well?
Rainer, once again, please, because you were interrupting each other.
Okay. Wouldn't it be interesting to have the level of your competition as well?
Absolutely. And I have a special notation for that in language. I call it the record level or the pass level. Now, record level is like an Olympic record. It is the best that has ever been done by anybody you would want to compare with. And this is very useful because you know it can be done at some price with some technology. You cannot say it is impossible. Okay.
Yeah.
And in some situations, you have to be the best in a very competitive international situation. You have to beat the record. You have to be continuously looking, as great athletes do, for beating the record to be the top dog. Okay.
Mhm.
Now I have another one I call the pass level, and the pass level can be your own good or bad levels. But the pass level can also be a competitor that you want to compare with, that you know you have to compete with. Okay,
yeah.
So this is okay. So this is my planning language. It gives a way of expressing these ideas and reminding us that it is useful to express these ideas.
Rainer, you wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to refer to this different level of scales because it's a perfect idea. However, a little bit challenging when working with stakeholders because my experience is that they are starting from the very, very top level of expectations. Yeah, just give me a real case example. I don't remember what kind of project it was, but it was something like the customer is coming and is saying, we want the system to be compatible with all browsers. Okay, all browsers. I know it's not possible. So during some workshops, we created a list of browsers, really a long list of browsers. Then it appeared that really they need compatibility with one browser. So my experience is that sometimes the expectation level is that the customers, the stakeholders, they expect, they wish very, very high level of quality that is not needed. Yeah, it is not, it doesn't really bring value. It costs a lot, but it doesn't bring the value, and that is a challenge.
So that brings me to one of the questions we had in our plot, that what to do if the stakeholders don't have the knowledge and when they can't formulate proper requirements, quality requirements. Because as you mentioned, Carolina, is exactly the case that some, let's say, management, whoever comes up with a requirement, he or she just picked up whatever to, and said, hey, I want to achieve that, or we have to achieve that, without having the knowledge about what Tom described, the cost and the effort to reach that level. And coming back to what you just discussed before, which kind of levels there are, that we have this good enough, or what is the goal level. So how can we handle that? How can we, what kind of, so do we need always specific consultants or people in the company who are trained on figuring out these quality requirements, or is there some approach which we could go? Do you have any idea?
What we did in this specific case? Well, we started with this wish, that compatibility with everything, everywhere, all the time, and we started to negotiate, because I'm not technical, I have no clue about technical issues, but what I did, I started to ask the customer, okay, who are your target audience? These people, what they are using, we don't know. Okay, let's find out what they are using. It appeared that they are using some specific devices, whatever, and we elaborated a smaller list of browsers. The next questions, the next question was something like, I work with architects, with technical people. They did something like an estimation, more or less, what is the cost? And then I asked the customer, what is the budget for these requirements? Nothing. End of the game.
Yeah, I would say you need, if you want to raise the maturity of an organization, you have to do a little bit more, because you have to sit beside teams and work with them in a coaching way, and to train them and give them the reason why they should work in this way. Why should they define metrics? And on the other hand, helping them to define metrics, because this is phrasing text. And often they are unable to phrase a good sentence that is expressing a metric, or that don't know what are the information that I need to find a good metric. So you have to train and coach them in this way. And we did that actually with a lot of teams, that we helped them in the first set of there, so they are enabled to do that in the future by themselves. Otherwise, you have to always sit beside them. Unluckily, this has not a high awareness in companies and the management to put money into training and coaching, so that the teams learn how to deal with this way of working. Tom, what do you say?
Yeah, okay. Well, as Carolina alluded to, the stakeholders do not know what their wish will cost. Now, there's a reason they don't know, because the answer is completely technical at the level of a system architect. You have to know exactly which technical strategy or design will give you that very high level. And then you have to estimate the cost. Now, this process of architectural design and costing is not something we can expect of the stakeholders. They can wish for a level, assuming it costs nothing, okay? But at some point, we have to engage designers to find technical solutions that will get us to these very high, ambitious, never before reached levels of quality, okay? And then this same designer has to compute the price and give it back to the stakeholders and say, are you willing to pay $1 billion for it? Because then I can do it. And they say no. Well, what are you willing to pay? Oh, no more than $1 million. Okay, I have to go back and see if I can find a design which is that cheap. And if I cannot, you cannot have your wish level of quality.
And how do you do that in companies that it works? But because typically a manager says, build this and that quality for that budget. And you
Okay.
as a designer have no chance to go back and say, well, that, or you even give the estimate back and the manager says, I don't care, do it for half the money.
Yeah. Well, I've just drafted a book, which, by the way, Carolina, we can add to the free books from this session. My cost engineering book. I just wrote it the last month. But what it says is, I believe that smart designers can do what engineers have been doing for a long time, design to cost. So when the manager says you must do it at half the cost, then you need to engage a smart designer who can look at technical possibilities and find the cheap ones. This is not something you can expect of your users and stakeholders or your managers, but you can expect it of an expert engineer or designer. Okay, design to cost. By the way, this is a practice you will find at all the Musk companies, which I've written up in another book, which we can give away free, called Musk's Methods, Carolina. Okay, it's very clear that they are constantly seeking to reduce the cost of every component and every part of the system every day. And they are giving their people the money and the power to change anything in the system every day in order to drive costs down. And that's why Tesla, for example, has a huge profitability compared to the other car manufacturers, and they can reduce their prices to sell more cars. Okay, they are fantastic at driving their costs down. And I think we could study their methods to understand the smart ways of being the richest man in the world.
So if I summarize what we learned is that we cannot expect management and stakeholders to think about the costs for the implementation of quality requirements. They are not able to phrase the quality requirements. They come along with a wish, and we need to ensure that in the team we do have team members who are able to break down the quality requirements and then, and in the end, to estimate costs and put a price label to it, stick a price label to it, and then come back to the management for the decisions.
Actually,
good summary.
This is good. Well, it's not the job of the managers and the stakeholders to define the price tag. That's okay. My next questions to you, Tom, would be, how do you convince management that they engage such a designer?
Slowly and cleverly. I don't know. It depends on the moment. When I'm there, I have to sense what interests them, what motivates them. And then I begin the convincing from that point. They could say anything like, we have to be seen to constantly decrease the costs, or they can say we have to be seen to decrease the cost by a factor of 10 within 1 year or something. Whatever they say, I latch onto that and try to show them how these methods will help them do whatever they want. That's my simple answer. It's very tailored. There's no other general answer than that.
But I got a strong feeling that is a hard point, or?
Yes, it is. It's very hard because they have no such culture. They do not understand a culture of design. They do not understand a culture of quantifying quality. And you're faced with all of that often in the first hour of meeting them. So it is really tough, but I have done it. And you asked how I do it. I have my signals out for what is it that motivates them. And I grab what motivates them and I argue in that direction, whatever it is. This requires a lot of knowledge and agility on the part of the consultant, of course. No simple training for that. Carolina is asking.
I wanted to say something, referring to your question, Rainer, and what we are just discussing. You started the discussion from the question, well, what can we do if management says you need to do something like that and you have this amount of money, yeah? And my experience is that for this amount of money, sometimes we are not able to deliver things because there is no such technology exists, yeah? What can I do? I can ignore facts and I can try to do it. It will not work. What I can do, I can escalate some risk, inform about consequences. Maybe I'm not too competent because, as said, I'm not technical, but we are working in a team, right? So I can tell them for this amount of money, you can have this level of quality. This not really possible. So the consequences for the business will be that. Yeah. And I think, referring to what Tom said, I also think that, well, the solution that seems to be quite logical and easy, trying to educate these people, is not really working because for them, this is my understanding and my experience, for management, educating them about engineering makes no sense. They do not see the value. What they understand information in terms of money, consequences, risk. We can do it with this level of risk. If you are this customer okay with that, be my guest. We can do it.
I like that. So in summary, it is something where you say, hey, with that amount of money, we can reach that level, and this is compared to our goal level, above goal level, below goal level, and then you as a manager need to take the risk. You know, if you talk about GDPR and you face a lawsuit or whatever.
We are a kind of engineers, right? We are not making, this is my understanding, I am not making the business decision, yeah? The customer, let's say, pays for my consulting for some information, and I'm informing for this amount of money, you can get this.
But the point that I see from my personal observation, that even the engineering departments of many companies are not able to express, with this amount of money, you get this risk and this level.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem. And there the negotiation fails because there's nothing to negotiate about.
Yeah, and they are just accepting things that are not possible to implement, that are not
So-
feasible, not measurable, and then we have a
Actually, the
problem.
recommendation is make yourself measurable with these metrics, or what your outcome is. Make your outcome measurable with metrics, and then go to the management, because then you have argumentation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think this is an observation that we see as well, that many engineering departments are shy to go into this.
Because it makes them transparent, or why do you think so?
Because they don't have the data. This is my opinion. They don't have the information. They
And it's
cannot
not
discuss because they cannot
It's not
discuss,
fun,
they
yeah.
cannot negotiate because they don't have arguments.
And it's
So
not
Tom,
fun.
you wanted
Yeah.
to say something.
Yeah, I'm going to refer back to Musk and his practices. What they do is take the best design they can think about quickly, the best improvement, and they don't wait around for a year or two to make it even better. They say, let's just do it, but then let us persist every day, literally every day, every 24 hours, and get our teams to nudge the cost or the quality up or down day by day. And in other words, this is an extreme agile method. They're getting feedback and learning every day. And they try every day to make things better. And they do manage to make things much better than their competitors who have this, we will redesign the product in 4 years. They are redesigning the product every day in their what they call mobs. Okay? It's a radically different approach to both quality and cost. They, by the way, same mechanism, whether quality or cost. Do the architecture the best you can quickly and get going. And your major changes will be through incremental feedback and change every day, where the team is empowered with money and license to experiment and license to fail, to try out new things immediately, even in production, on the production line, quite radically compared to any other auto manufacturer, for example. Okay, so there's this. This is an extremely agile idea, and I sometimes say Elon Musk is the greatest agilist of all. Look at what he does.
He is the greatest in many other things as well, but that's different story. May I pick up one of the questions from the chat there? Jan has asked a question: where can I find good starting point to create such a metric? So perhaps can we get to some hands-on example? How do you elaborate a metric?
Well, if you think about that, you have a team. I propose as a prerequisite that we are working in teams and not as a developer hero on its own. If you have a team, then a team typically in an agile environment is at least responsible for something. And something could be, well, a service that he is offering to another team in the same company. And then you could say, what are really the success characteristics of this service for another team? Is this reliability? Is this performance? Is this usability? And so on. What is the one most important success factor for the user of this? And then you could define it as characteristic. If it's performance, then you have to figure out what does performance really need. Is this data throughput? Is this answering? Whatever is it. So take just one out of this. Start with one of these characteristics, and then implement an automatic measurement. Then you have a metric. And if this works fine, then try to find the second one. And if it's not working fine, then try to find a different one. And I think this is the way how you could build up your own dashboard of metrics that have the characteristics for what you're supplying to your internal or external customer.
Okay, so this could be some kind of, let's say, speed you can measure by data throughput or transactions per second or whatever.
Or as I said, conversion rate of a customer going from one step to another step in your user interface.
Yeah. Okay.
The conversion rate could be as well.
Tom, you wanted to comment on that.
Yes. I already gave one very concrete idea that anybody can try out while we are talking here. And that is to ask an AI system like ChatGPT to give you the metrics. Okay, try it out. It's quite amazing how much better it is than human beings. By the way, it is never in denial. It never makes excuses like this is too difficult. It just does it, and it does it well. Now, I'll give a second thing. In my book, which I also suggest free digital copy of, Carolina, Competitive Engineering, Chapter 5, I have taken the most common things like security and usability and maintainability, and I have shown template scales of measure, ready-made. So you can, it's a basic set you should learn. Okay, and that's free, of course.
What else, if I can add something? Well, personally, I started learning on qualities from software quality model, Square Standard, which is quite a good point of reference. If you have no clue about qualities or your business have no clue about qualities, you can treat it as a kind of checklist. You are going to the business, for example, and asking about features, needs, what they will answer. They will tell you about business processes, features, not qualities. So you need to ask, and within the standard, you have the qualities, you have the checklist, what could be any important quality attributes, and also you have examples of how to measure. So that could be a starting point. And again, together with the book support that Tom mentioned, this is actually my source of information, competitive engineering, and it really works. I'm not saying, Tom, no offense, I'm not saying it will work in every single environment, because business people, when looking at these things, they are, they look like, oops. So what I am doing, I am making it more simple, but still having these tags, having the metrics. And this is the first step. To show them that numbers will not bite you.
Right.
So Marta came back to the other level. Not that we have stakeholders who ask for qualities which you might not be able to read, but for stakeholders who just neglect the importance of qualities, security, availability, usability, and all these things. How can we address them and convince them that these qualities are important? So something we can give advice, or is it simply very difficult?
Sometimes these are not qualities that can be done. They must be done because it's GDPR, because you have a standard, and the consequences will be, if you will not implement the standard, your business is no go.
Or the other way around, make yourself transparent and show them the features. Well, there's one obstacle that I see that teams have if they start with metrics. They have the fear that they make themselves comparable to other teams. So if they are better or worse than another team. So a very important lesson to learn for a company is that measuring is measuring the system, not measuring teams and people. And then you get rid of the fear if I make myself transparent, or the work that we do making transparent, that we measure the systems, and then we could think about how could we improve the system, not how could we improve a team. And I think this is very important. This is the part of the iceberg under the water, often in measuring.
That's what I meant when I said that teams might be afraid that they become too transparent. So that means in terms of performance and let's say as well quality of their services. So of course that's something
also a good aspect, Stefan, because if the teams are afraid of being transparent, that would mean a kind of problem for me. There's something wrong, really wrong with this organization.
Yeah, but it's in various organizations. It's the fact.
I know.
For example, if you see two customer service teams and the one does more calls an hour than the other team. Typically, the management compares and say, this is the better team. Instead of asking, why are they better? Could I help the other team to improve? Or what are the differences between these teams so we can learn?
But again, you are coming back to the metrics actually, and the
Right,
better
yeah,
understanding
for
of
sure.
metrics, yeah?
And are these even the right metrics?
Okay.
I have a suggestion that in the Olympics, we remove all metrics so that people will not be afraid of being compared with each other. And we hand out the gold medal on a random number selection.
Yeah.
There's also one thing that, if I might, I would say to Marta, because Marta, I think, well, I feel the pain. Yeah, sometimes business customers, they don't really understand the value of quality and what I am doing. Sometimes I'm doing quite a silly exercise. I am showing similar systems with low quality, like low performance. And I am asking, this is what you want? Or you want to be better? Yeah, so maybe it will work to show them examples. Maybe it will work to show them some consequences of really bad systems.
And I think that management should aim for, let's say, improving revenue, raising revenue, selling more products, having a bigger market share, having an award for their own system or product for reaching whatever level of quality, so that the management should have an intention to reach something, even if it means make me legally safe by meeting GDPR. That might be the goal of the management. They don't want to go to court. Okay, so then we need to implement GDPR. So there must be some. So if the management has no intention to do anything, then the whole thing is, let's say, then we are lost.
But the problem is, at least from my point of view, the management, they typically perfectly know what they want to achieve. They want to, I don't know, increase the market. The problem is that they don't know how to do it. They
Carolina,
do not connect the link.
I like your idea. I once was talking to a manager and asked him for his private life. What was the last thing you really was angry about in your private life?
Yeah.
For example, the digital radio in his car.
Or Bolt application that is not responding.
Yeah. Or the Bluetooth connection of this device doesn't work with that device. So that's quality. And if you ask them for the private life experiences, then you can get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, might be a good idea. But this brings me back to my Bluetooth problem yesterday, but we will not solve that today. Okay, so about 5 minutes left. Any other questions from the audience, or anything you three want to add where you think, hey, this is as well an important aspect which we did not touch yet? I do have on my list how to document. Is there a silver bullet of documenting these things in a specific way?
If I found a silver bullet, I'm getting rich, real rich.
Yeah, okay. You will have a second leg for your bird in the back, right? It does not need to stand on one leg only. Yeah. So of course,
thing that in the meantime that I think could be important. Well, I really think that managers they know what they want to achieve from the business perspective. They don't really connecting the dots, like how to make the goal working. If I will map the business goal to the system, like for example, some of them cannot really understand that increasing the market, getting new customers have something to do with usability, maybe performance. And in my opinion, this is our role to show them how these links work.
Okay. So we need plenty of consultants and training support for these people who do the job.
Why not to invest in our own people?
Yeah.
Why not to listen own people? Because I'm a consultant.
I say consultants and training for the people in the team, of course.
And sometimes really listening to our people, because very often what I'm noticing, I'm coming to a company and I am telling them exactly the same things that their employees are telling them. They are listening to me, they are not listening to them.
That's how you are used as an external consultant. There's a nice question in the chat. Do you think forwarding the YouTube link of this roundtable to the management will help?
Oh my gosh.
Try it.
Stefan, you would need to adjust, modify the video a little bit.
No, we're just cutting off the beginning and the end. Typically, we don't do any changes to the
Okay.
session. Yeah. So it depends. I
Yeah.
think it depends whether the management wants to hear these messages. But if they don't want to, then you are lost anyway.
I think the
Okay.
first step should be on your side, Jan, to show them why it is important.
Try to meet them on the coffee break. That's a good way, because then they are easy and listen.
Okay. Okay. Let me say some final words on the topic, and then we close the session. Tom, anything to add from your side?
One word: feedback. Feedback and feedback is the key. And then we can add rapid feedback, numeric feedback, relevant feedback. But that is the key that seems to be the success factor in places like Musk Enterprises and other similar places. Feedback.
Rainer, you already?
Yeah, remove the overload in your backlogs. Get rid of the stuff that you don't need to do, and create room for doing the important things.
To do it, you really need to understand what brings value and what
Right,
doesn't.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's quite a nice end. You need to understand what brings value, and you need your management needs to understand what brings value, and then we're talking about costs to achieve the right goal level. Correct?
Well,
all right.
Summarized.
So
yeah.
we are at the end of this round table. To me, it was very, very interesting. I hope for the audience as well. Carolina, Tom, Rainer, thanks a lot for joining us today and to give insights to this interesting topic. And there's another person joining. I just let her in, and then we close down the session. Thank you very
keep
much.
in mind that Tom promised to give you some free books, yeah? So you can expect some links.
Yeah,
and I really recommend you to read
right? He's giving away t-shirts.
I correctly predicted the number of people on the call, approximately 42.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.